All right. Hey.
Hello.
Back at it again. You're legit one of not saying I talk to a bunch of artists because I really don't, but you're definitely one of my favorite people to talk to, like in the art world. So I'm super excited to be chatting again.
I feel the same. I got a new computer, so it's figuring it out. This one's less racist. The last one just had me like a shadow all the damn time.
Oh,
So
it's less racist. So it went through the 2020 DEI process.
you know what I'm saying? Something happened. Something happened. This is the first time I'm ever seeing. Yeah, there's a whole thing. This is weird.
So maybe we should start off with intros, and then we can just start chatting.
Okay. My name's Azikiwe Mohammed. I make a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's stuff that people can pick up with their hands. Other times it's not.
Is that a period?
Yeah, I feel.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much all of it. That's the whole thing.
My name is Stephanye Watts, and I'm a arts administrator. I would say like a non-traditional arts administrator. I didn't come into this as a person with a degree or really any work experience in the arts, but I was raised in an arts community. I was one of them kids. My mom was like, "It's Saturday. You going somewhere? You going to dance school? You going to karate? You going to something? So you ain't gonna be sitting in my house looking at me." So I was one of those kids that accidentally got into the arts because my mom said I couldn't be at home watching TV. And then 30 years later, I decided I wanted it to be my career. So now I'm the person that does all the Excel sheets and PowerPoints for different arts organizations.
Amazing. So. Yeah, my favorite of the Get Out the Damn House, the program, right? Because then eventually somebody hits a certain age and they're like, you know what? I got to give somebody a place to get out of the house too. Mm-hmm. It was called the Little Orchestra Society. It was part of Lincoln Center. And what I think about it now, I think we were seat fillers. I think that's how that happened. We would get free or discounted tickets to whatever they had going on at Lincoln Center. Mostly it was, Black pointed stuff. And then some days, if you wanted to go to bigger stuff that was already sold out, or it was something that they weren't as concerned with butts and seats, then we would get discounted tickets, like 4 or 5 that we could use over the course of the year, right? So that was one of the first ones. I was like, wow, like we out here doing stuff. Okay.
And for free.
Hey, right? A number I enjoy greatly. It was a little troublesome when years went on. I was like, hey, I should go to Lincoln Center. Oh wow, that's a different number that was before.
You like, no, but I still got my membership card from the Little Orchestra.
Right now, I got my little yellow plastic mug. Right, it says it like this means that I get in. Like, sir, that is a very small mug. How old are you? What is happening?
Word. So I think my favorite You Can't Be in My House program was Freedom Theater. And it was a theater school started in Philly, where I'm from. Like the same time as like the Black arts movement in New York, the same time in the 1960s. And we did everything: sing, dance, act, and that would be my whole Saturday. And then when you get to a certain level, it's like, oh, you come Tuesdays, you come Wednesdays, and you're there all day on Saturday. So it was like a real commitment. And I was at Freedom Theater from the age of 5 or 6 until I was 14.
Oh, wow.
So I did a bid in that joint.
Yeah. There's a version of that I wasn't a participant in, but I found out that many of my friends were participants in, called City Kids. That was one they had here. And then they would also book you to be in videos. Like, so I remember seeing some of these, people be posting wild stuff on their stories, right? I'd be like, hey, like, look at this weird old, like, 80s, 90s video. This is great. Holy shit, is that right? And then you would just see, so they'd be in Sesame Street, they would be in weird, a lot of those Stop the Violence videos, right?
Oh, wow.
So they had them doing theater, but then they also would try to get them gigs and do like a translation between the two. Really, really amazing stuff. I, at the time, was more of a word person. So it was Youth Speaks was the name of the program at the time. It's
I
now
heard
turned
it.
into, yeah, they're you know, still moving. Urban Word.
Yep.
Yes, that's the current operational title. That was my version of your endless theater class. Just at I don't know where they still are, but when we were doing it, it was located in Union Square somewhere. So it's at Union Square all the damn time.
And so we just always talk about how we have so many like life overlaps. We never talked about our upbringing in the arts community. So I love that we're dishing about this now. And you know, like in thinking about myself now, it's like, okay, I've been working in this industry for like 5-6 years. Like, what do I want to be doing? And I keep coming back to, now that I moved back home to Philly, like I want to be like those people that like started Freedom Theater or did Youth Speaks, or you know, like these programs that like nowadays a lot of them don't exist for young people. They're like, why are the kids outside? Because they ain't got nowhere to be on a Saturday.
Nowhere else to go.
And so I'm just thinking a lot about like what are these organizations that are like still around? What are organizations that can be reignited? Because it really, even if you don't go on to be an artist, which like most people that were in Freedom Theater did, like you still have a, like the way you engage with art becomes a little different because it's not as precious to you. Because you're like, oh, we can do this on Saturdays, whatever.
Yeah, no big deal. One of the things that I think those programs, when they're at their best, what I find them doing a lot is arts literacy in relation to speaking around why, right? Like this isn't something for you to visit and then you leave and it stays in the building. Like somebody made this somewhere else at a place that looks like the place you live in, and then it got moved into this building, but it didn't start in this building. And being able to think around how, you know, objects and experiences can move, how the meanings will shift based on location, and clearly, you know, based on viewership and how all of that, you know, those ideas are upheld. But demystifying, I think, is one of the roles that those spaces can and often do best when there's so much talk in, you know, Black and brown communities over, oh, you make art? Okay, cool. Where's the music video? Or who do you paint? Because it's still based around this idea of, you know, portrait painting being like the highest form of creation, largely pointed to the I could never do that. That's incredible, right? Because that's always the first, oh, well, I mean, I could never, but yo, good for you. That's dope. I love that. I mean, I wish that I could. Why can't you? Right? And that's what I think those programs at their best are able to accomplish. The idea of not only can they, but you can, and what you're already doing is the same as.
Yeah, that last part is super important because I think that a lot of young people, Black people, feel like art is inaccessible to them, but it's in everything that we do, right? And it's like I don't know what the fancy word is for it, but there is. But just for like everyday things can become art if you want them to be. You know what I'm saying? Like even the way Black people talk to me is the art. Like the way we can construct a sentence is so crazy to me. And it's things that like only we will understand. Like there was this, I don't know if you, I know we're both like internet people, but if you saw, there was like this thread about these kids in, I guess like elementary school or something, and they were learning like syntax and stuff. And it was about like, it was like Cookie Monster or some. I'm really botching this.
I didn't see this one. I'm very excited for it to be sent to me later.
I'm botching it so bad, but basically they had like, it was a mix of race students that were in the class, and the black kid said Cookie Monster. They said who eats. It was like Cookie Monster and Elmo, and it said like who eats the cookies, and the black kid was like, oh, Cookie Monster be eating the cookies.
Yeah.
Even though like in the story, I think like Elmo physically had the cookie. But so like in our linguist minds, we're like, well, Cookie Monster is always eating cookies.
It's literally his name.
Right. So we're like, Cookie Monster be eating cookies.
Right.
But like, that is something that's so particular to us and how we string sentences together, because all the non-Black kids said Elmo, whoever the other character was the answer. And so like, there's just this really cool way in how we dress, in how we speak, how we style our hair, how we like, you know, you got your accoutrements on today, the leather joint today, you know, like it's art in everything we do, you know, like thinking about Lorraine O'Grady, how she just had the frames that was putting up in front of us, like that's real. We're making art all the time.
See, I think that, let's stay with that sentence for a second, right? One of the things that is a core tenet to everything that we do is time. Trying to buy back our time, trying to take back the time that's been taken from us, trying to figure out ways to put back into our bodies the thing that is supposed to come most naturally to our forms, but it's something that we have had to give up in this American space. You know, leaving your house, maybe your time's up, you don't know. You know, go to the store, that might be a wrap. Like there's no way to tell. And if your time doesn't belong to you when you leave your home, or even in your home, as in the case of how many take back that time and make it yours. So when Cookie Monster be eating the cookies, right, because he always is. It's not a momentary thing. So a lot of the linguistics that we use speak to larger groupings of time because there aren't as many moments, because each individual moment is a group moment, is a shared moment, is a shared birthday party, right? I might not make it to mine, so I'm gonna lend you mine. And then if we get to yours, I expect you to lend me that birthday back, and then that's all right. And then that's where the whole block party comes in, right? You don't know whose birthday it is. You'll figure it out at some point. Right. It doesn't matter because somebody's still alive, so everybody's celebrating. So when when that little kid was like, you know, Cookie Monster be eating the cookies, right? It's a statement of fact. It's a declaration because they also belong to him first. And he is sharing that time with Elmo.
Right.
Allowing a moment to be Elmo's in which Elmo can temporarily eat a cookie. But Cookie Monster be eating the cookies because they his, and everybody knows that.
Right.
And then that also falls back into respect, because a large portion of what a lot of this is, Elmo knows he ain't got no purpose eating no cookies, looking at no cookies if Cookie Monster's in the room. But that shared trust and respect that has grown from a long amount of time spent together, there's this, I'll find it. You know, there's for what, like, I want to say like 50s through the 80s, there were just so many records. People were just making crazy bullshit for no reason, right? I found one yesterday, how to better use your computer. Sure, I guess they were cheap enough to make, you could just roll them out. So there are a lot of these temporary conversations that now would just be relegated to a YouTube link and then vanished. End up being physical items and end up in places they may not have otherwise. I came across, I believe it was a Black man, but putting on his best white voice. It's hard to tell, right? But he identifies himself as Black somewhere in there. It's two sides, so it's like two sort of 20-minute sections where he goes through the full linguistics of sentence structure and how we communicate. And very often we're told that it's wrong or that it's built. We build sentences in a way that prove the stereotypes about us. But within the sentence structure is actually built a defense against any of those things. And we're double talking, where we are going to hear something different. Like me and you are going to hear the amount of time and possession that Cookie Monster has, while somebody else is going to be like, oh, that's not the right word that was used there. Or look at the picture and be like, no, like Elmo is clearly eating the cookie. Right. Eating is a singular action. Be eating is a continuous action and buys back the time that we lost. Also, clearly Cookie Monster's Black. I don't know. That always felt very clear to me. I don't know if that's true or not. I literally have my when I was 3, my Cookie Monster with the rattle eyes doll in the wash pile, because he fell out when I was pulling out the Christmas decorations, which I may or may not have just put away.
No judgment.
Just, you know.
But yeah, so it's really interesting to me the ways in which like Black people are like gate kept, if that's a word, from art, when it's like we make this all the time. Like this is, and we discard, the things that we make so easily because we know we can make something else immediately after. And so like there is this like, I guess like, again, like it's not precious because it's always going to come back, or something new is always just going to happen. And I think that's just like what's so cool about Black cultural production, right? Is that it's always going to be something new.
And there has to be, because it keeps getting taken and then monetized and brought out of our communities. So then we have to make another one. Right? Sarah Jessica Parker, when she invented nameplate necklaces. Right? I think that was a very good example. And Post Malone done forgot himself and doesn't enjoy the music that he makes millions of dollars off of because it's not serious enough. Right? I was like, don't you be crying in all your songs? Like, what are you talking about? White Iverson is the most depressing song I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, stop it. Full stop, homie. But we have to just keep making stuff because they just gonna keep stealing it.
But do you think that there are, I guess, ways that we can better archive like the things that we make? Because I think about like, this just kind of popped up in my head, like the Gucci Mane plates that you have. And there's another artist, her name's Qualisha, and she does like the textile blankets that remind me of like the RIP rugs. And there's certain things that like in Black culture are like commemorative pieces. And so like for like the 2 examples that I just gave, like those things kind of serve in my mind as like, okay, this is like an artistic like remembrance piece of this time, right? Of like, because there was a time when Gucci was like that guy, and that's now been commemorated in these plates, that people can own and have in their homes.
And we're it's funny, like as years go on, people forget stuff, who was it? I think it was like Young Boy Never Broke Again. Right now, the names are just too long now. I'm old.
And there's so many of them.
You know what I'm saying?
NLE this person, NLE that person.
I'm like, are y'all actually friends? Is this a group? Is this what? I don't know what's happening. So, Young Boy says some wild ass shit, and Gucci just very quickly, very swiftly, was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you positive?"
And remind them.
Woo! Because they forget. They forget because there isn't a lot of commemoration. There isn't a lot of these locked in. It's hard to find old Gucci because they were CDs.
And what you gonna play a CD on if you were to get your hands on it?
It's a wrap.
I got Gucci mixtape from my Atlanta days.
Yo, I'm ready.
I gotta find my DVD player to listen.
Which also you can put in your TV, some weird ass screen pops up, makes you. Nothing's ever made me feel older than putting a CD in the DVD player on the screen that pops up. It's just so violent, like bouncing DVD logo. It's like, right. I don't want to listen to this now. This is crazy. I think that because we're always concerned about time and moving so fast, that the time to step out and pause and slow down and lock a thing that we're making into a more archival object is tough, right? Now, when you're trying to find, especially any of the stuff from the South, it's just rough. Now, there's a lot of repressing right now, but like 666 Mafia, right? When that was still, are just releasing a bunch of their shit on LP for the first time. Because that was never part of the culture. Keep it moving out of the back of the truck, make you millions of dollars, and then keep moving, right? Now, I'll leave it to somebody much more informed and smarter than I to discuss why there was more of a vinyl culture in New York. I believe that's because there were pressing plants. Or I don't know. I have no idea. But we have some of these older things, and you can find them. Like I can find, and I do very frequently find full albums from Nas. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what have I found recently? That first Bleak album, Nas, Beanie. That's one of that's your family. But a lot of that's still like Eastern information, right? Outside of the record landscape, one cool moment that was very short-lived was when every single group had a fashion line. The Outkast line wasn't terrible. Somebody told me that Andre had his own line, which if you look up, it's like a slightly blacker version of LL Bean.
Oh.
It's kind of amazing. It's really confusing.
Was it that like colors or something?
I remember seeing it and was so aghast. I had never heard of it that I just erased it from my mind immediately. I remember looking at their phone, scrolling through what I didn't know existed and wanting to remember the name. But it's like one of the other names he's like used before, right? He was like Benjamin Bixby for a second.
Yeah, I just found it, literally, Benjamin Bixby.
Hey, okay, I got it. All right.
Yeah, it's giving like big, like jockey vibes.
Yeah, like safari, jockey. It's like, okay, I get like Ralph Lauren is in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. So like that is a specific archive, but outside of fashion and music, two of our all-time favorites, are there other places where we've kept this archive, where we've kept these bones? Because clothes are disposable. You go out of them. They get destroyed and then they go wherever they go. CDs, good luck playing those, right? Like it's not. So what are these places where we have archives?
I feel like it's our bodies. That's really the only place, because when you think about like you're like average Black American, there's a lot of transition, there's a lot of moving around. We're not necessarily stationary. When, y'all might have had grandma's house for 60 years, but if she passed away, then a lot of those things in that house are gone. So everything literally lives inside of us. And I'm not a Black bodies person, so I'm not saying our bodies in that way. I'm saying in like literally in our like DNA is where all these memories are stored, because we can't always take everything with us. But the scary part though is when people pass or things like that, that it's not like that institutional knowledge, to use the art speak, it doesn't get passed down. Like literally the other day, I was craving my play grandma's hot water cornbread, and I was like, and she passed last year, and I was like, oh my God, I never learned how to make it. Cause in my mind, I'm like, man, she gonna be here or whatever. I can always get my hot water cornbread. And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that recipe now.
You know what? Wait, hold up. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Let me see if I can't find something real quick.
Okay. I love you always come with the props.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where it is too. Ain't take me no kind of time. All right.
Oh wow! See, I had that from my great grandma, but not. But my great grandma was doing a little too advanced work, selling cupcakes and stuff.
Nope. Okay. Apparently, cauliflower soup.
Wow.
Oh shit! Whoa! Look what just popped out.
First of all, the shirt is still relevant. Okay.
Yo, you feel me?
It can still work now.
Yo, that's a hard shirt. I'll have to figure that out. Yeah. Nah, we got the whole joint. She put all types of bullshit in here.
Wow.
Most of this is empty because that's a damn problem.
Because it's in their minds, in their heads.
Okay, well here's one. Baking powder biscuits. Sounds a lot like hot water cornbread. Okay, maybe I can try some of these. So at a certain point, I started trying to fill this out because I knew this was a problem. Tuna vegetable pie.
What?
Tuna vegetable pie.
We can leave that in the archive.
I mean, that's just poor people food. You know what I'm saying? Now, she makes a different version of that for my birthday most years. It's tuna casserole.
Okay.
You know? That's a name that we know it by. That's a more simple name. But I knew exactly where this recipe book was. And the entire thing is damn near empty, which I didn't know until just now. Because I never thought about it, because I was like, all right, I know the object is there. It's just in the kitchen, the drawer with all the stuff in it. And I was like, all right, if I need it, I have access to it. No, I don't. Ain't nothing in it.
I think that's the thing that's so frustrating for me. Is like, we produce so much and it's hard to capture all of it. And then I don't know, I have this like weird fear of like, oh my God, what if I don't remember to tell my kids this thing?
Right.
Like, cause it's like, you know, certain things just feel so like tantamount to like your Blackness. And you're like, oh, I gotta remember to like tell my kids this thing. But like between diapers and whatever happens when you're a parent, you like, child, that don't matter.
That ain't gonna happen. You ain't gonna remember none of that. But
right?
what you can hope for is a circumstance in which there are enough people around to help carry the weight. And that's something that we do very well, right? I might remember half of it. You might remember a little bit of quarter. We got to call somebody to get that last piece, but we can still get it. You know, because again, it stays in our bodies. And figuring out, I think that's what a lot of this Black arts conversation has become of late, is figuring out ways to externalize that. And now that there is some finance behind it, that people want to buy it for, whatever. We're seeing what that looks like for the first time for real. You know, because I mean, there's always been people making, stuff, whether, painted things, sculptured things, whatever version of the object that's not the music and performance, which we've always, that's a non-issue, right? We've always had platforms for that, but a platform for the more object-based work is a newer concern, newer issue, right? And I think a lot of it's looking really good. There's that textile show that's up.
I was just about to bring that up, the new band.
Yeah, absolutely, really, really amazing. Yeah, they're the quilted tapestries, right? There's the I know Bon Mi has some of the Dorag work. Basil Kincaid has some of the story work, which has some of his clothes from his own family life, which is then, pulled into and pulls from that super wide tradition. So there's a modernizing of the traditional object, of the object that we've always touched and always had access to, but then moving it into a more archival space, which feels really amazing and really great to see. I think, was that Legacy who did that one, right? Yeah, I mean, just really out the park on that one.
It's so funny that I was actually going to bring the show up, but it's so funny that you brought up the Dorag Work, because when the pandemic first started, my mentor runs this like fund that gives mini grants to Black arts institutions, and I was like ranting on Instagram, as I used to do in those days, and I was ranting about Black museums, Black art institutions, because I started my career in Weeksville, not being able to acquire Black art, right? And so she was like, well, listen, like, if you can come up with a plan, like, she will allow me to steward a certain pot of money to acquire works for Black institutions. But then the pandemic hit and everybody stopped answering their phones. And the project kind of died, but that was one of the first works that was the first artist I reached out to about acquiring like something. And, there is something about Black institutions that are supposed to be like the keepers of our stuff, of the artwork being inaccessible to them, that like really grinds my gears. Like, okay, I can't afford that piece because it's $30,000 and I'm an arts worker. Fine, I don't take it personal if it's just me and I can't afford it. But if it's like an institution whose job is to be able to do that for us, right? And they don't have the access to it, that's when I get like, ugh, because I think his work, to your point, right, speaks to the quilt making of like, the 1900s, and then the use of the do-rag that we wear all the time now. And there's a lot of do-rag art out, but I think that's the one that does it for me.
Yes.
For sure. Every time. And I was like, oh my God, some Black institution needs to have this.
And Legacy heard you,
Cause yeah, that show was really, really good. I'm a textile joint. Like I love like textile work. So I love that show so much.
Sitting on top of my sewing machine right now.
You said I'm sitting on top of the sewing machine?
No, my computer is sitting on top of my sewing machine. I'm sitting here.
Oh, you're serious. You really
we ain't playing, right? Oh, this is the sewing table.
And that's something too. Even the sewing table is like something that's so like intrinsic to the Black house, right? And my grandma had the one that where you flip the sewing machine up.
Yeah.
And then you could like flip it back down and cover it, and it could be like the table to do your homework or whatever.
Yeah, and then you can actually work.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I had to get rid of that one. It wasn't beefy enough. It was a beautiful object, but it wasn't getting the work done. Right. So I started sewing as a very small person. I don't know when. It was my mom went to the women's group at her church, and we didn't have the money for no babysitter. So I was the only, so I was the only, male identifying person that was allowed to come. So I'm 7, 8, sitting here making pillows and lace. I think the one that I remember, like when I realized this was not a skill that all people my age had.
Right.
For Secret Santa in 2nd grade, I made a sweater alligator. So you cut the arm off of the sweater, right? And then you sew that up, and then that's the tail. You cut the front of the sweater part where your wrist is open, and then you put a little thing in there. So then that, right? And then you just put some legs on there. Boom, stuffed animal alligator. You're good to go. So I made a teal one with like a lace neck collar and some like blue eyes. I clearly remember it way better than I had anticipated.
Unlocking memories over here.
Well, because I remember giving it to Erica, and she was just like, what? Like, what is happening? Like, I want you a card, like, take a lollipop to it, homie. Like, you good? Like, what? I was like, yeah, like, this took me as long as that took you. But a lot of the crafts that come out of, you know, many Black homes are things that can then turn into objects that are for, you know, giving to whomever with whatever resources you have, but also, and more importantly, you're able to fix your own clothes. You know, like if something goes wrong, you don't have to buy it. You can just take care of it on your own.
Yeah, it's the utility, right? Like, it's funny, this show, Eric Edwards has the largest collection of African art owned by a Black American, like, in the world. And so he did a show at Weeksville right before I left. And I remember him saying to me, because we were walking through the show, and he was like, you know, everybody's calling this art, but this is all utilitarian things. And so, like, our ability to also make the things that we need to survive beautiful is also another part of our cultural production.
Yes. My favorite. I like making handbags. It's just my favorite thing to do.
I'm gonna place an order because I need a new pocketbook.
Oh, girl, I got you. Hold up. We got one right here. This is the one. This is my everyday personal.
Listen, I'm back outside. I need a good sturdy pocketbook, and that's the perfect size too. Because I hate big bags now.
No. This is the to-go version. This is the bigger size. I generally make the better ones go to other people, so then I just have the testers in the house. And then there's another version that's a little bit longer, has kind of a nose on it, because that's the handle. And then when you grab it, the whole thing turns square. So all your square, because now all we have is like weird rectangles and squares for everything that we use, which I can't. The rectangles, I'm just so over. Any other shape, please. Everything's coming back from the 2000s. Nokia, where you at?
The block phone is coming back.
Yo, they got it. It's already back. You can get one. It's got like a 0.5 megapixel camera on it. It says what? Like a 2-week battery. You ain't doing nothing, you know? But they had some really, really out there designs, which were really cool and fun. Because if you're able to speak to what the thing needs to do, then you can also start looking at what it's able to do, right? And I think that's where Bonmi's Dorag work comes in. You know what the object is. You know what it's physically capable of, the wave reveal videos.
Oh my God, I love those, the wave check videos.
If I'm ever having a tough day, that is the first thing I will do, is I will just sit for like 30 minutes and just watch some wave reveal videos, and like everything's fine. And you reset the clock, back outside now, right? Woof. But they feel wide, you know, because it also speaks to some of the other choices that he got me out here trying to buy do-rags. I ain't got no business trying to learn how to rag up at my raggedy ass age. Lead out to people that have been doing this. It is too late to get in that game. So I went this way, you know. But I think there's a lot of opportunity that we're starting to see in objects made that don't have explicit purposes. Because just us existing is enough. It doesn't have to be useful. Being alive is useful. Being able to say hello to somebody tomorrow, making fucking plans and knowing that you'll be alive for them, which, you know, that's always a finger crossed, but still just doing it, having the faith that you'll be like that alone, I think is enough. And starting to see objects that are not divorced from the first, but are definitely leaning toward the second. Feels really good. Fun is a word that I always feel a little dodgy using, but I think it's allowed and makes sense here. It's fun to see Black folk just being alive and not having to prove why they're allowed to be alive.
Yeah, I think the best Black art for me doesn't take itself seriously. You know what I mean? Like, you ever like be at an artist talk and an artist is talking and like they're just using all these big words, pontificating and all the things, and you're like,
You
but
would
then
think
so I
about
think
none of
the
that.
wave revealed it to me, right? It's so simple, but that's the art to like create that dynamic in your head. So I think for me, when art or any type of cultural production doesn't take itself seriously, that's when it's the best. That's when it's the purest, and that's when I think also too it allows for a point of entry for everybody.
Now, there's ways to do both at the same time. So I would like, just for the record, since we're recording this, I spent 3 to 4 years as a wave do-rag man. I'd like to say that it has been accomplished somewhere in my life. Middle school. And then I went dreads, and it's the full opposite, and it's been a disaster ever since. But I just want, again, for the record, just want to clear that out. I do think, to your point, there are ways to do both, to make things accessible and have them still be felt, to make things that we can understand, but have them not be overly simplistic, because we have to be so complicated in our daily lives, or something bad's gonna happen. You know, just very, very simple. So what is something that can speak to that complex knowledge, where, you know, that person that may not have made it through all of school, or may not feel like they're the smartest person in the room, or may not feel that they're allowed in some of these rooms where some of these things hang, right? What is something that we can make that says you're allowed in this room, you are the smartest person in the room, who the fuck cares about school, and let's think a little bit further about that idea that you just came up with while we were sitting here, right? What are ways to do all three of those things? I think a lot of that's material choice. If it's something like the plates or the tapestries, like those are things that we know. We go home and we will bump into that, right? I have an MLK commemorative plate from some kind of something that, you know, sure, right? There are ways to use that language that we've all sort of agreed upon, that we all understand, and move it into these other rooms that we're less accustomed to, right? At least non-programmatically. Because you're saying what, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays? All right, what about like Monday and Wednesday? Are we allowed to come back on Monday and Wednesday? Now, the point of this program is to tell you, yes, you are, but it's easy to forget. You know, after like a month or two, do you ever go back? Have you ever, you might see the same people outside, but like, when was the last time that you went to X building, right? I was speaking for myself. I was a teen at the Whitney Youth Insights program.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I tried to do both sides.
That program is legendary.
I agree.
I had a bunch of kids in it last summer and the summer before that.
Okay, yeah, they still moving, doing big work. They were one of the first of that type of program in that large of an institution. I did that one year, and then I did the Brooklyn Museum Critics Institute the other year. So it was like, learn how to talk about it, learn how to see it, learn about who makes it, and then learn how to write about it and learn how to think about it. Those are my two. That was I've always been like a shitty A and B person. I just can't, right? But one of the things that was really cool about the Youth Insights program, I was, one of a few people in the program that had a little more arts experience in, schooling opportunities, which were not great establishments, but did have a slant or an opportunity for some form of art stuff, right? That plus the Saturday get out my damn house meant that I had some, right? And a lot of the people did not. This was that. But I feel like, again, there's a responsibility to Black makers, to those of us from the wide majority of marginalated folks, to spend time back, to give back, to use the language that comes from our place and put it back in these rooms. And I think of Pamela Council, Devin and Morris, Bon Mi, we just mentioned, Ekene, he does more sculptural experiential work outside. If you can figure out how to turn Cookie Monster Be Eating into an object, it's going to speak to both groups equally, because they understand Cookie Monster and they understand the cookie, and then they got it, right? But then we also understand that scope of time that is also happening, and then you're able to do both at the same time.
And I think like this goes back to your work for me, is that like the humor that might be in it, or the what's the I want to use, like the sneaky, if you know of it, doesn't take away from the rigor, which I think a lot of people feel like if it is something that's like rigorous work, right, that has to be something that's not like it has to be super serious, it has to be super academic. And to what you just said, right, we were talking about when I came to your studio, we did the studio visit, and we were talking about your show and how the Black people wouldn't step on the rug, right? And it's which I think about that story like all the time, which I guess we should probably like recast so people know what our inside joke is. But I think you even thinking that, which is something that's so humorous, which I like have told so many people that story and continue to laugh about what a month or two later, there's still rigor in the fact that you thought about that and then like embedding that into what this show could be. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that I just wish that people would create in a way that doesn't have to be so highbrow, I guess. Because highbrow don't mean it's good. That doesn't mean that it's impactful.
It starts with our bodies, as we've mentioned multiple times here. Your body enters the space first. Yes, you see stuff, but your eyeballs are stuck in your body. Your body has to walk in there and drag your eyes with it, right? So if there isn't something that's gonna, one, make you want to go there, which getting people somewhere is always a different thing, but there's enough places I don't feel comfortable that I'm not invited. Why would I be responsible for another one, right? You want me to go to this white room full of white people, full of things made on white canvases that often have white people on them. They're just gonna stare at me, a non-white person. Like, I don't know how many times I can say white in one room. That just feels crazy.
Take a shot every time you say white.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna be drunk in 10 minutes. It's gonna be a problem. So what if, since we as Black people have so much of ourselves in our physical forms, because there's not as much ground for us to put it back into, because we don't have these objects, because we end up moving, because grandma ends up dying, because we have to sell them, because we just ran out of cash, because we got fired, because, right? Or I got a recipe book that's apparently 2/3 empty. Right? Okay, just found out today. So when I was trying to think around that specific show at Anna Zarina last 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, 2 years ago. The front part was a living room and the back was like outside in the street with a little courtyard you walk in between two. So we carpeted the whole living room. How are you going to tell that this is a Black space unless you put the like 6-inch thick white carpet down on the floor you can barely stand up on? You know? You want to go in that room, fine, you're going to fall over. Don't go in that room both for your own safety, but also just don't be in that damn room.
Right.
What if you could be in that room? So when, Black folk will come to the show, a lot of them will get stuck right at that front door. I just couldn't do it. There was a wall up. They knew what time it was. Now I left the plastic off the couches because then they wouldn't have been able to sit down either. Right?
Definitely not gonna sit down.
No. And it's funny, I was in this show recently at Cap Gallery down in Lower Manhattan, where people were asked to make things that aren't what their traditional means of making is. So I made some furniture. It was like 2 chairs and some stools. So I had to go find the plastic to put on the chairs. Sure enough, I went to like an old fabric place, like a Black and Mexican neighborhood. I didn't even need to ask. I was like, yeah, so I have these chairs. They're like, oh yeah, right in the back. I was like, excuse me? And they're like, yeah, like on the speed rack where we use like the things that we use all day, every day. They had a roll. It was like this. And it just ready. Because that's what people come in there asking for all the time. Like it's not this old. That's the thing I find funny about a lot of these circumstances and these objects that we end up with. We still use damn near all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's still in practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like an old thing. Ugh, I can't. but leading with that that intentionality that as soon as you walk in, your body has to readjust to another place that you were in. And then it brings that experience with you, since oftentimes the experience that you'll have in these white walled galleries may not be one for you and may not be one that you want to necessarily have again. Now, there's something to be said for turning that space into an hour space, which the textile show does really well. Nicola Vassell has done a very good job. But like there's many examples of blackening the white space, but that's not a need that I feel personally, or an interest that I specifically have.
You know where I stand on that,
so just
it's a nice little tap in, tap out, but it's gonna be us first.
Thank you. You said you had some questions.
I think I actually let me look, because I feel like I went through some of them when we're just like talking. Let me check my notes.
What I'm saying, I never know.
Oh, this one I definitely want to ask, and it's like on what we're talking about. And so what we're talking about actually right now. So that same show I saw, so remember we talked about the replica that you painted of like this very iconic, if you live in a culturally Black home, if you see this painting, you know exactly what we're talking about. And that was something that to me, that's just like the humor is just so rich to me, because you were saying that the person that purchased it has like no concept of like why what they bought is so iconic. But any Black person will be like, "Oh my God, you got that!"
Immediate.
How you get your hands on that? I want that.
You know?
But you know, I just wanted to like just because I don't think we really discussed it in depth, but to kind of hear from you about being humorous in your work, or if you consider it humorous. Like for me, I'm like so tickled. Like whenever you're just a funny person in general, like I don't think you intend to be funny, but like
You're having a good time, you know?
you're hilarious. That's why I love talking to you, because you'll be dead ass serious about the thing, but it's just so funny. Like just deadpan people are just funny to me. But just like wondering like how if you look at the work that way, that like that there is like humor in it. I think there is work that's a lot more serious. You know what I mean? When we're thinking about the paintings that you have with like the NYPD planes, which is obviously like not a joke in any way for me personally, because I have like a trauma story attached to that. But you know, in your work in general, I think there are a lot of things that are just, and maybe because if you know, but it's just so humorous for me. So I just kind of wanted to talk about humor in artwork.
Yeah, so I think both. I think both at the same time, right? Like, what is it? What was it? I don't know if it's accredited to just Maze or if it's Maze and Frankie Beverly, or Frankie Beverly and Maze. I don't know. You're Joy and Pain, right?
Frankie Beverly and Maze, Philly icon.
Yeah, because I always give it to Frankie, but I'm like, that don't seem right. It was Frankie Beverly and Maze, right? When he came over and took over Maze, because they had their own albums, which are also amazing. You can't have one without the other, because we didn't have time to separate. Right? That's how I always think about it. How this goes back to the shared birthday thing, where you don't know if you're gonna make it to your next one. So every celebration is a big celebration. I remember there was this cheap crab legs place we used to go to in Gun Hill, which I don't remember there even being street signs up there. Wherever we was going, it was far as hell. I was like, there ain't no place we can get no crab legs closer than this. I was like an hour and a half out. But it was important that whenever anybody had a big enough X, right? Graduation, report card, good report back from work, promotion, like who knows what, right? It was very often this one far ass place. As time has gone on, I don't think it really mattered the size of the accomplishment. It was the fact that there was something to celebrate. And if it went on for too long, probably just make some shit up. Because it's still like, well, you're alive. And like that feels weird to say, so you just make some bullshit up. Right? And it's like the anniversary of your last report card, I guess. Right? Yeah, sure, like whatever, right? Because there needs to be something to look forward to that isn't just existing. But the fact that that's true is insane. And to some degree, is mildly humorous. The fact that I can leave my house and be shot in the face and just left to bleed out on the ground because somebody's chosen to me, the amount of absurd that is, I find funny. Because it's so far, it's the equivalent to getting like a piano dropped on your head if you're like Tom and Jerry or some shit, where you like just walk out the house, anvil just hits you, bow, keep moving, nobody even blinks. Like it's that level of insanity. So without acknowledging how absurd it is, then you're only left with living with that as the stone cold reality that it is. And it's hard to get around that and still make it out of the house and still put on clean pants and go to the store, right? It becomes, those basic maintenance tasks become larger and more difficult. So, as we tend to do, we laugh about it, right? We make it a little bit lighter. Now, somebody that's a little less familiar come in, but oh wow, that is a disturbing conclusion. When you have so many people die on you, that is not even a big deal anymore. That it becomes harder to separate the funerals out than it is to count how many you've been to. Then there starts to be a different feeling and a tone to them, right? Those like first few, I mean, they're always gonna be insane, right? Funerals are never happy, they're never, but they can be joyous, right? There can be, but that comes, oh, sorry, that comes with practice. It comes with familiarity, right? Now, since both of these extremes are true, making an object that only lives on one side of it feels hollow.
Right.
So trying to make sure that both are present in equal parts at each turn. Sometimes that'll be in the execution of the actual object, where I'll try to make the actual object a little bit lighter, right? I don't need to render something as drastic as I might in a different circumstance, because it's close enough for you to get the point across, right? And that sort of, like, the amount of times that I've been called an outsider artist is, I find both offensive to people without any real formal training that have managed to figure the shit out, one, and two, just say you don't get it. Just say it's not for you and keep moving.
And outside to who? I gotta lean in my Toni Morrison bag. Invisible to who?
Come, like, stop.
Because I really feel like, and this is not a gas, but I really feel like your work is some of the most like legible Black art in general that I've ever seen. Because I walk in and I get it. And so outside to who?
And I think one of the reasons, let's just move forward assuming that what you said is true, right? I'm not saying I agree or disagree. We're just gonna move forward with that statement. Then why? Okay, how's this? One of the reasons I think that may be true, or why people feel more comfortable using, terms as such, or just are more comfortable being comfortable in spaces, because a lot of times the spaces too, right? The spaces hold objects. I don't think I'm making art. I'm not making up anything myself. It's not, I find, everybody has different, means of approach with that specific word, right? It's not one that I tend to use, because a lot of times, the word artist or art, or artwork, look at this artwork that I've made, it has a triumphant tone that often rings false, right? What are you trying to triumph over? Who are you trying to speak over, right? Where did this idea come from? You saying it came from you? You say you made this whole shit up all your damn self. That's what you said. All right, sometimes people do, and that's wild. That's cool. I am not one of those people. I have mild takes on very popular ideas, but very rarely do I have fully original ideas, because they're just taken from the Black experience. I am. I said this before, and then I started laughing at myself. I am a Black, not the Black. Right? I think that's I like that.
I love that.
Right?
Because a lot of people is heavy on the V, and I'm like, sweetie, you don't even be around like that.
No, stop. Right? Like, I'm just a black dude that, like, I see a thing, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, we like this, right? There's a thing we fucks with. All right, cool. I'll move it over here. Take it from this place, move it over to this place. And then the people from the first place are like, oh shit, wait, that's over there? All right, let me go pop over real quick. Let me see what time it is. Hop right over, you know? So I don't think of the things that I make in a singular fashion. They come through my hands, you know? I'm not gonna pretend like I have nothing to do with it, but it involves me. It's not about me. And I think that's why people feel like they can hang out with this stuff, because it involves them too.
Mic drop. What do I say after that? What do I say after that? Yeah.
I would.
It involves you, but it's not about you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what to say after that is you have an organization that does the same thing. Do you not? I'm looking at the title on the Zoom page right now.
Oh yeah, I do. Because it is also not about me. I think when and where I enter this art space is always of like amplification, right? Like I'm not a maker of things, but I am someone that like loves art. Whenever I say art, I'm talking about Black art, because y'all, I didn't grow up knowing no white anything. I didn't have white people in my books growing up, and even in college. So when I say art, I literally just mean Black people, because like Jeff Koons is all I got for you. And anything else, I have no concept of any. Like, I know like no white accomplishments.
How you say Balloon Man?
Yeah, look, that's all I got.
He retired. You retired.
So for me, it's always just like keeping our whatever our output is top of mind for people. And so like through B-Roll Black Cinema Club, like I recently got into like independent film like a few years ago, and I was going to these Black screenings of these Black independent films, and I'm looking around, I'm the only Black person there, and the theater's packed though, but I'm the only Black person, or I'm the young, or I'm the no one there is between me at 30 and 50, right? Yeah. So, well, then I was 30. I'm closer to 50 now. But, you know, and so for me, it's just always, and that's why these conversations are so important to me, because it's like, I'm getting to be exposed to artists that I may have not known about, and then be able to share with somebody else, who's going to share with somebody else, who's going to share with somebody else. So, you know, even though we ain't got it written down in text, right? It'll live in somebody's body, it'll live in mine, it'll live in the bodies of everybody else. So, you know, I'm just always trying to, yeah, you know, keep that recipe book full, or at least, you know, have it in somebody's memories museum. So, yeah. And again, like, it's not the same thing with Film Club. Like, it's not about me. It involves me, right? It's about us. It's about being able to tell our stories freely, tap into the joy and the pain. Pump it up, pump it up. I'm gonna listen to that song when we get off too, because I love that song.
Yes, please. Well, I want to hear. There's the new there's a hack, I guess. There we go. See, I'm figuring it out. Me and the new computer here. I do want to hear the 10 more crack commandments that just came out. I'm very curious.
Wait, what's that?
Benny the Butcher, Tana Talk 4, just came out a week or two ago.
Yo, I can't keep up with Griselda, because they got something dropping like every 2 weeks. And I'm an old person. I need to live with an album for at least 2 weeks.
I'm still like 3 years back, right? But I was like scrolling through stuff, trying to see, you know, what the kids are up to, everybody listening to nowadays, because, you know, otherwise I'm gonna be stuck in my old ass musty house records, listening to CC Peniston all damn day, which is nothing wrong with it.
Which is not a bad idea.
Right? I'm just saying that's what's gonna happen. But he made, as he says, 11 through 20.
Mm.
I was like,
okay. I like Benny, but
hey, I'm very curious. That is a tall order. Now he sent it to Primo.
Okay.
He sent it to Puff.
Interesting.
Puff is on the track. So like they wouldn't have said yes if it
wasn't good.
You know what I'm saying? Because like even as braggadocio as Benny and all them dudes is, there's certain things they know that aren't about them. And that are larger than. Mm-hmm. And they're still beholden to a larger, agreed upon community. Even somebody like that. So like, if Mr. Murder Man #1 is feeling like that, how's little man in my unicorn shirt supposed to be any different?
Yeah.
Well, that feels like a good ending point.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we nailed it again.
All right, cool, we good.